Thank you very much for asking me to speak. I enjoyed very much both Nelson and literary speech, matter of fact, complementary to what I was going to say. I am a Palestinian Christian Israeli citizen, and as a result, that determine effect I approach many things. I was involved in reconciliation the last 36 years. So reconciliation, like the word peace, can be perceived as a negative. We used it, doesn't work, had a bad press. And also reconciliation, if not done well, properly, this can cause damage. But I'm coming and claiming right now that reconciliation is one of the most powerful tools for us as a church, Palestinian, and matter of fact also Israeli, is to address the situation we are living in. So I would like to start with a certain definition to explain what I'm saying as reconciliation, as decolonizing, decolonization. So, can we go? Yes. Literally represent his view of the situation that we are under empire, colonial power. Colonial power, like Rome, want to take advantage of the resources of the country. Try to use the people as slaves, as a marketplace. What I'm trying to say, it's more than that. What we are experiencing here is not only empire and colonial, it's settler colonialism. And that is the key thing. If we do not, from my point of view, if we do not understand that we are dealing with settler colonialism, we are not going to address the situation properly. And what settler colonialism is? Settler colonialism in a very simplistic way. There is a group of people, because of persecution, economic, religion, it's our case is the Jewish people mainly in Eastern Europe, that were suffering from ideological anti-Semitism that with 18th, 19th century become political, ethnic, and anti-Semitic. They are looking for homeland. And homeland they are looking to have a place to establish safety and to keep their identity. And as a result, they go to another country, another place. Settler colonialism is your experience, going to America. Settler colonialism is in South Africa. Settler colonialism in Australia with Aborigine. And also in New Zealand and more and more. And that's really important aspect for us to understand why we need to deal with the situation. Theology is great. I love it. I teach it. But also Western theology does not address the practicality of how to deal with the situation. And that is a weakness. So let's look on several things what settler colonial do. We don't have the time to cover everything. First of all, the logic of elimination. That means from the Nakba of 1948 with 750,000 Palestinians that were driven out of their home. And also what happened after the 67. In this logic of elimination, 450 villages has been destroyed. What you see also, if you go to Jaffa, only the old cities left, Ajami and others, has been erased from the ground. If you go to my hometown, Lid, it's kind of a city with the central city, the heart of the city has been destroyed. What is left? The church, the mosque, all the beautiful city was there. So there is elimination of urban and rural Palestine and ethnic cleansing of the native people. And that is different than empire, and that is different than colonial power. There is moving people for land. Then there is the whole process of destruction of identity and history and culture and all way of life. We grew up as Palestinian in Israel and Israeli citizen, we've been called Arab Israeli. Ben Gurion took the name Palestine and gave us another things. So what I'm trying to argue here also, that conversation, and the title of this conversation, is very much dominated by the West Bank experience. There are Palestinians in Israel, the state of Israel. They're in Jerusalem, in Gaza, in diaspora. All the Palestinians in different geographical locations are experiencing the same experience of settler colonialism. And that is what I'm claiming. We need to come, unity, we need to come with understanding and also to address it. Land appropriation, alerting the landscape of Palestine. If you want to see that right now, classically, go to Silwan. Silwan has been declared as archaeological village. The people of Silwan are being moved out, digging all the way down to second or first temple to prove that archaeology is part of that. So you have that aspect of it. Another thing that there is, land appropriation strategy as part of logic of elimination. After the Nakba, after 1948, one of the things that's happened here, there was confiscation of most of the Palestinian land, and the land that been confiscated is not owned by State of Israel, is owned by the Jewish people. By simple amount of money, Ben-Gurion gave it to the Zionist international group. It's not they are owning. And so there is that, for example, my family, when driven from their home, find refuge in the church, they become absentee, resident absentees, that they are in the city, but they're absentees. How can you do that? But that is a reality that we're. Or turning property into nature preserve. If you look into newspaper, Israeli newspaper, Haaretz, every weekend they were giving us tips where to travel, different natural resort and all of that. At least Haaretz has its transparency to say that in this part was a Palestinian village until 1948. So you'll have that all the way also when you drive into Jerusalem. The forest, many Palestinian villages on the right and the left. Or declare that this area need for military. If you remember the land days, when the land had been confiscated in Galilee, and the Palestinians went to the street to demonstrate because the military decided to have certain area of Galilee as military training area. And turning a blind eye to settlement built illegally on Palestinian land. Of course, we know it's part of the whole program that's happening. Part of it is government-run or semi-government or by personal initiative. So how Palestinians approached it? One of the way Palestinians want to approach it is taking the model of South Africa. How things work in South Africa. South Africa is a successful model. So the perspective to deal with decolonization was to resistance to Zionism. And some Palestinians view BDS as a model of how to deal with the situation. And I think many groups have declared that. So, and they claim that any reconciliation effort on normalization, oppression of their people. Just want to say that if you're not engaging, if you are quiet, if you don't engage with the situation, it is also normalization because you accept the status quo if you're not addressing. And any partnership is maintaining injustice. That is the view that very much in many groups among Palestinians is held. But there is Mahmoud Ma'madani. He is an Indian origin. He lives in Uganda. He writes a lot about the situation in Africa, South Africa, and he did the case studies. And when he did the case studies of Palestine, South Africa, and he compared and want to see what's happened, Mahmoud Ma'madani, he presented, and it's not a theory, it's reality that what happened in South Africa. He said that the South Africa experience was not only by boycotting, it was also by engagement, political engagement. Africans were all the time being reached out in political engagement in order to finish apartheid. You see it also in the movie Nelson Mandela and others, that there were two tracks, boycotting and engagement. Boycotting and engagement. That's what Mahmoud Mahmadani said. That's something for us to learn. If we want to adopt the South African models, let's adopt all of it, not only part of it. And also it's very important that reconciliation is not, as many people say, restoring relationship. It is also integral part of it is addressing systematic of injustice. Loving someone, you want to treat him justly. From theological point of view, from my point of view, you cannot separate love and justice. On the cross of Jesus, the love and justice of God came together. You cannot separate them. You cannot say to someone, I love you, and mistreat him. That's not true. It is not redemptive love that the gospel taught. Dr. Naim Rouhana, he is a professor from Haifa, some of you know him. He did a lot of work on the issue of the situation in the land overall. And Dr. Naim Rouhana, he is social psychologist scholar, because in the end of the day, how we actually do it, how we practice it, how we changing the reality, not only ideologically, not only theoretically, how we doing that. He said, there are several things that are very important for us to observe. Many people see the conflict as two nations fighting on the same piece of land. He said, this is false, it's not right. And he's talking about second colonial conflict with features of national movement, because the Zionist movement is a national movement of the Jewish people. But this is coming to the land in order to have a Jewish state. So he rejects any symmetrical analysis. So many times you have the conversation, oh, these people suffer and these people suffer. It's not. He addressed that, and he's also looking at it. So he is claiming reconciliation should be seen as decolonization within a transitional justice framework, mainly offering agency to the Palestinians. This is the key thing. And I think this is what Jesus was doing, and this is exactly what he's saying. We're passive. We're responding to provocation. We're not taking responsibility actively to our situation. We're paralyzed. Our church leaders silent and paralyzed. We are paralyzed in the situation. So decolonization is give agency to people that are oppressed. And especially the people that right now have more ability to change is the Palestinian citizen of the state of Israel. If you look how many elections we had in the last few years, and one of the biggest issues is the Arab parties and their role and their place and making what's going on there. And that is very important. So focus on reconciliation as opposed to conflict settlement or resolution. We are looking more than that, because our situation, there are two people living in this land and how they are going to live together. It's not a situation of conflict resolution between Egypt and Israel. There is Egypt, there is Israel. That's two situation. It's not. This piece of land, this is what they're at. So what he is saying, very important, the process of reconciliation is in essence social and political. So many people say reconciliation, oh, just people to people, like what USA does. If we become friends, everything work out. It's not. It's social and political. In that it's demand reaching agreements not only based on restructuring power distribution, the gap of power between the Israeli and Palestinians is huge. Democratic arrangement, the issue of democratic issues, it is in the forefront in all demonstration right now in the country. And constitutional guarantee for equality and human rights within the frame of restored justice. That's part of it. But why reconciliation? But also on reaching into subjective agreements on historical truths. What happened in this land in the last 100 years? What happened with the Nakba? What's going on? We have to address historical truth and reckoning with the historical responsibility for the mass violation of human rights that have occurred. If we don't deal with that, with Musalaha, the historical narrative is one of the key things in our curriculum, the seed of hatred, bitterness, conflict will come back. Will come back and will destroy every process. And he brings 4 areas that are very important. Justice, that are preventing reconciliation. Justice, truth, historical responsibility, restructuring social and political relationship between parties to guarantee democracy, constitutional right, and equality. Those areas need each one of them to address in order to have reconciliation. It's like between husband and wife. There are certain things that husband and wife need to do in order to reconcile broken marriages. What are the steps to do them? And so there is one moral imperative. Both of you talked about it. There is moral imperative. And a moral imperative that we as Palestinian people need to have new moral foundation is defined by social justice, truth, historical accountability, and establishment of institutions that reflect this framework. Do we do it? Are we building institutions? Are we addressing? Or we are stuck with very old institutions that exist in the land that doesn't meet the need of all of what we need to do? Another one, of course, for sake of time, I'm not going through all of it, political. This constituted form will be founded in restorative and distributive justice, fair distribution of resources, and power sharing. Our system, political parties, laborers, and all other groups are being framed on that say, or we do exactly the pyramid that you showed, that we have the Sadducees and slowly down, and the people, that's a few people in position, power, and privileges in our society, in the Palestinian society, keep everybody quiet because they benefit from position privilege. Social psychological. This is really important to deal with the whole process. Every empire, every settler colonial, questioning your identity, questioning your belonging, questioning your history. From where have you come? You came because we came and we did the land prosper. They question our identity connection to the land. So this psychological healing can also be facilitated and easier to achieve within such moral and political framework. I am worried that if we use certain languages, in that process of language and using an approach, we dehumanize the Israeli and demonize the Israeli Jews. Because at the end of the day, it's our neighbors. And their humanity also reflects on our humanity. If we lose their humanity, we'll lose our humanity too. So it's so this process has to be. Just saying, I don't want to meet with you, I just want my justice. Sometimes you look for revenge and not really justice. The involvement of public elite, grassroots movement is essential. And this is something that has been checked and studied by several political scientists. Erica, she claimed from study of 100 conflicts around the world, she's from Harvard, political scientist, if we're able to achieve 3.5% of the population non-violently, the rate of success of bringing change is 65%, compared to violent one, 25%. And then, like the Algerian experience, it's go for another violence even after the French left. And that is the French, also another secular colonial example, that violence is not the solution. So this process involved in new political behavior. We're stuck with the same political party. We're stuck with this division, Hamas, Fatah. We're stuck with our leaders. We're stuck with all that way of thinking that has to be changed. And that's what he said. Every aspect has to be changed. And that is something that is very important, where pressure from the bottom, from the grassroots, is up. Part of the success of the first Intifada was grassroots movement that affected the leadership that led also. So, next one, please. So, Reconciliation allows for the native to proclaim their humanity in the face of their colonizer. This is what you find many times all over. Disturbing the colonial matrix. The settler colonial has a matrix of control, of moving people, affecting. So by us taking responsibility, engaging, we disturb the matrix of settler colonialism. The Palestinian Israeli Jews, that's what Edward Said said already in 1979. If many of you know who's Edward Said. And he said the Palestinian Israeli Jews must recognize each other's joint reality. What are the reality on the ground, and must strive to live in peace, justice, and freedom with one another. Reconciliation allows a decolonial dynamic between the settlers and the native. All that dynamic that goes. Indigenous-led reconciliation resists the Western colonial way of doing reconciliation and peacemaking. Listen, from the peel that the British put, they're one of the first offer for peace. You know what they're offering? That 40% of the land or 50% of the land will be in one side, and where Palestinians lived, that was the first approval of ethnic cleansing. Look the destructive of the Oslo Agreement. Look, all the agreement has been done internationally by the West have not really addressed our situation because we are not on the table. We're not the initiative. We're not moving. So a Western way of thinking, and I teach also in Western University, is not helping us, the model of peacemaking from the West. It's not helping us in the reality. Copying that is not happening. Has to be indigenous, has to be coming from the ground in our context, in our reality. We need a new political reality. Sorry, there's a mistake here. Scholar in Palestine and activists advocate one state. Some advocate federation. Some advocate canton approach to the situation. We have a book that's been written about one state. But what all of that thinking is coming from? Coming and thinking in our reality, political reality, has to change. Our approach has to change. The way we were thinking has to change. Reality, in order to decolonize the settler colonial paradigm in Palestine, is we have to come in a different way of thinking. The decolonial reality can only manifest with decolonial process of reconciliation, because the process of reconciliation itself needs to change. Because also part of it is being observing, taking colonial. We must have decolonial political engagement, which must realize through reconciliation. Part of the colonial paradigm is to isolate, separate, isolate Gaza Strip. This is, they do it everywhere. Isolation, separation, and divide people based on hierarchy. We talked about the hierarchy of that, but here we have also geographical situation or hierarchy. We have in our situation hierarchy. However, reconciliation, horizontal, and reconnect the colonial and the colonizer with dismantle the colonial categorization of other, including the colonizer. So that process has to be all the time involved in those two issues. Thank you.
Wonderful.